FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone tonight from New York City, I am talking with the lead singer and the frontman of the band The Cringe, that being John Cusimano. And John, first of all, thanks so much for joining me on the show. And you and I have never met personally, but I have seen you play in concert a couple years ago when you were out on the Motley Crue Alice Cooper tour.
Jay-Z, I remember seeing you in the crowd.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you did. Well, you might have...
I was waving, and you were kind of blowing me off. You didn't say hi. We invited you backstage. You were too busy hanging out with, like, Tommy Lee and stuff. But, you know, I tried. I reached out.
There was some truth into hanging out backstage, but it wasn't with Tommy Lee. It was actually with Nikki Sixx. We had backstage passes that day. So there is some truth to that. I will say that.
There you go.
And if you remember...
Even when I'm lying, I'm sort of telling you.
And I tell you what, actually, one of the guys that I was hanging out with, along with my beautiful wife and another friend, too, actually kind of resembles Bret Michaels from Poison. In fact, he wears the hat, he has the hair. That's kind of what he's going by. So maybe you saw Bret Michaels. I would have been right next to him.
I actually didn't see Bret Michaels, but you know, we're playing an arena with Motley Crue and Alice Cooper, and we have to like step it up. We have to hit him with the hind, as it were. And so, you know, it's hard to look at everyone in the crowd when you're trying to look at 18,000 people at the same time.
So I normally I go a different route with this interview start, but let's talk right away about the Motley Crue Alice Cooper shows and that. What was that like to be a part of that?
Well, first of all, it was a great honor that you know, two of the greatest rock acts ever, who I'm big fans of, wanted us to be on the bill with them. And then the second thing was it teaches you how to play to a gargantuan crowd. I mean, right away, you're thrust out there. There's 15,000, 18,000, in some cases 33,000 people there. And they don't really know you. They're there to see Alice Cooper. They're there to see Motley Crue. So you got to entertain these people. So it's trial by fire. And it was, you know, I told Nikki Sixx the last night of the tour, I think it was in Quebec City, I said, thank you for giving us the best opportunity this band has ever had. And it really was. And we really grew a lot on that tour. We did, I don't know, almost 50 dates with them all over North America. And it was great. And then you get into this rhythm where you go to sound check, you do your sound check, you go to catering, you have pot roast or whatever delicious food they're making, and Motley Crue had great catering. You do your gig, then you get to watch an Alice Cooper show every night. You get to watch a Motley Crue show every night. So, I mean, the travel part is kind of a drag, but the actual gigs are great. Loved it.
I'm kind of curious on the travel part. Were you at least able to travel with them, or did they say, no, you got to take your own little bus or whatever?
Oh, they had their own fleet of buses.
Okay.
I'm not going to, like, knock on Motley Crue's bus's door and be like, hey, can we sleep in one of your cots? No, that's not how it works.
No, I know, I get that. But I was wondering, you know, if they bussed or if they did some flying or what, and if you had to follow along.
Motley Crue had, they had buses.
Okay.
And Alice Cooper, this is the great thing about Alice Cooper. He is a huge golf enthusiast.
Ah, yeah, I know that.
And at the back of his bus is a Jeep Grand Cherokee. So every single day when we pulled into town, he would get in his Jeep and he would drive to the nearest golf course and he would play a round of golf, literally 6 days a week. That's just what he does.
Wow.
I think he's a scratch golfer. I didn't have the chance to play with him. I'm probably embarrassed myself. I'm not as good as him at golf, even close. But yeah, he loves golf, he loves malls, and he loves movies.
Okay.
And he kidnapped my bass player.
Okay, really?
So we were in Baltimore, and my bass player Johnny we were all doing our own things, and he was walking around looking for something to eat, and it was around 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and the Jeep Grand Cherokee pulls over, and it's Alice Cooper and his wife, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Blaze, because our bass player's name is Johnny Blaze, get in. We're going to the movies. I'll buy the popcorn. and he kidnapped my bass player and took him to the movies.
What do you remember what movie it was?
Well, I didn't go. It was Johnny. I didn't get invited.
Wow.
Just my bass player.
Okay. Well, I thought
it was maybe a Mission Impossible movie or something.
Okay.
I don't know. But at the end of the tour, Alice was kind enough to sign pictures for us, all of us in the band, and it was like, mine said John, rock on or whatever, Alice Cooper.
Right.
Our drummer Sean, rock on, Alice Cooper, and Johnny's was the only one that said Johnny, rock on, love Alice Cooper. He got the love thing. We didn't get that. So he kind of adopted our bass player, which I'm a little jealous, but I'm sort of proud, though.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, and speaking of, you mentioned Alice, we're actually spinning his daughter's band, Beasto Blanco, right now, too. Yeah,
she's talented.
Absolutely.
There, she was on a lot of that tour.
Yeah. She was, very much so. Hey, we're talking to JC from the Cringe, lead singer. And, it's hard to, when we talk about you being on such a big stage so quickly like that, but really, obviously, you didn't start out that way. So what is the history of the Cringe? How did the band all come about?
Well, it goes back to high school for me when my best friend, Eric Sherman, and me at the time started this quirky little sort of punky, funny band, and the joke was that we were so bad that you would cringe when you heard us. Then it evolved into I was in New York City, living here a few years ago, and I got together a bunch of actually really good musicians, and I had what I thought were a bunch of pretty good songs. So we recorded an album, and I just kept the name The Cringe.
Right.
I don't know that I love that name, but I'm kind of stuck with it at this point.
Yeah.
And we were just playing, small clubs around the city in downtown New York. Like we played CBGB's actually before it closed. We played Arlene's Grocery. We played these types of places.
Right.
With, maybe 100 or 200 at the most people. Then we somehow managed to get a tour a few years ago in the UK with a band called Steel Panther.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and those guys, they're like a rock band, but they're really funny. It's sort of like Spinal Tap, but on crack.
That's about right, yep.
So we started playing, 2,000, 2,500, 5,000 seat theaters and venues in the UK, and then because of them, I think, we got sort of attached to the whole heavy metal kind of thing, and then the Motley Crue and Alice Cooper opportunity came along, and then you're doing 50 shows in arenas with Motley Crue, so that just opened up the floodgates.
How tough?
We're touring with bands. We tour with bands like Tesla all the time, and Rat, and now it's just fun. We just love it.
So let me ask you that. Obviously, you go from a small club to the big scene now. Now is it kind of tough going, well, we were doing all these big stuff, or do you enjoy the small stuff?
I like it both. It's we're actually going to do an as I call it, Better Late Than Never album release party here in New York at a club called the Milk Jam Room on the Lower West Side, as it were, in Chelsea. Our friends own the club. It's going to be maybe 150 people max.
Okay.
But it's a really cool venue. Really cool bands play there. We've played there before, and it's just going to be us doing. We'll do, half or more of our new album. Then we'll do some covers, and we have friends coming and jamming with us. I don't know if you know who Bob Schneider is out of Austin,
I do.
Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a good friend of ours, and he'll be there jamming with us. My wife will come up and sing a couple songs, and we're just gonna have fun and have a couple scotches and play some music. And so it's it's good. It's just if you're playing a bigger venue, you gotta this sounds so cheesy, but you gotta make big moves. You gotta lift your arms up. You gotta play to the back of the house. But I'll do the same thing in a 150-person venue too. So I don't know. It's good training ground to play all different type sized venues.
I would believe
over and over again.
I believe, John, you probably wouldn't have too difficult of having a guest list of 150 people come there. I'm just guessing this, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but I mean, you brought in, obviously, you mentioned your wife. We actually just heard from her a few minutes ago before the interview here that she was calling you. So, but you have a pretty well-known wife too, don't you?
I do indeed. My wife is television personality Rachael Ray, who, it's funny, people say, does she actually cook at home? And yes, indeed, she does almost every night, to the point where people ask me, what's a good restaurant to eat at in New York City? And I really don't have any idea, because I'm eating at home. She's making me carbonara. She's making me alla matriciana.
Wow.
She's just cooking all the time. That's what it's her passion. Like, music's my passion.
Right.
Cooking is her passion, and she does it all the time. And I'm, really a huge beneficiary of that.
And it doesn't show, though, right? You're looking good all the time. At least when I saw you a couple of years ago, you're looking good.
I don't know. I mean, we try to go to the gym in the morning, and I try to run a few miles every day, and she cooks healthy food. It's not like we're sitting around eating, junk food.
I gotcha.
She makes homemade pastas and things that are what you should eat.
Right. I bet you didn't have a lot of time when you guys were on the road for those 50 gigs together, did you? Too much? Yeah,
she was. She's too busy to be following me around like a groupie or something. So yeah, that's the part of touring that kind of stunk for me. I was away from my family. I was away from Rachel. I was away from Isabu, our dog. And you're in a car, you're in a bus, you're on a plane, you're traveling around, and you'd like to be home, but the actual playing the music part of it is really fun.
We're talking with John Cusimano. Of course, he's the lead singer of the band The Cringe. The new album is called Everywhere You've Never Been, and I'm kind of curious why you chose that title.
That's a good question. I always struggle with this. It's like lyrics, and we've worked. This is our second album we've done with this great music producer, Don Gilmore, who famously produced the first Linkin Park record, the first two Linkin Park records, actually. So he said to me, look, your lyrics, you're not going to figure out what the lyrics are totally until the day you're recording the vocals in the vocal booth. That's just how it works. And it's the same way with the album. Like, I had no idea what we were going to call this album. I'm clueless. And then it suddenly occurred to me that all of the songs on the album sort of evoked places that I've been with my band or places that have been in my life. And I'm like, everywhere you've ever been. I'm like, how about everywhere you've never been? Mm-hmm. And that just became the through line of the album and the title of the album. And then the actual, we released the album, it's wherever you can get music. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes. You can buy a CD, we always do vinyl. We always bring vinyl and CDs to the gigs. But the vinyl configuration of the album is really cool because we actually did postcards for each song. Each song has a postcard that's inside the album. And that was inspired a little bit by, I don't know if you've ever seen the original release of Exile on Main Street by the Stones.
I have not.
I'm lucky enough to have an actual first pressing or whatever of that album. And inside are these postcards of just the Stones being raunchy and awesome. And so that kind of inspired me I'm going to do postcards in this album. So if you get the vinyl version of the album, there's postcards in there.
Very cool. I like that. That's very cool.
Well, the whole point of vinyl is that you have like this whole big package thing to look at and absorb yourself in while you're listening to the album.
As a kid growing up, that's all I listened to, obviously. I'm in that generation of vinyl. So, in today's generation, I don't think they knew what that was. But I know they're trying to make a comeback of it somewhat, but I know it's very costly. And that's the hard part, too, isn't it, John?
Well, there's something to be said for the convenience of digital music, because you can have tens of thousands of songs in your pocket.
Right.
And I love that, and that's great. But there's also something to be said for taking a record out of the sleeve, putting it on, and really being immersed and focused on listening to the entire record, whether it's 45 minutes or whatever from front to back, and not skipping around and being OCD about, you hear one song and then you skip to this song, and I love that process, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because it's the way I grew up, but
right.
It's definitely making a comeback, and people seem, because it's a thing a tactile thing you can actually hold on to, whereas digital music is not tactile; it's just in your phone. And
it's hard to believe, but we actually still do have turntables here at the radio station, and I know I've been trying to. We do, yeah, and I've been trying to reach out to actually people, and for promotions and that, says, hey, send me a vinyl, because I'd love to do like a vinyl hour or something. And because there's such a purity to it.
It really is. And I mean, there's this whole science behind it, that digital music is a recreation of a sound. This is really geeking out now. You can edit this out later.
That's okay.
But, digital music is zeros and ones. That's just the digital language.
Yep.
And they have points on a sound wave, and they fill in the points between on the sound wave with a straight line. So no matter how many points there are on that sound wave, it's never going to be an actual sound wave. It's going to be points with a straight line between them.
Right.
Whereas analog music, vinyl, is the actual sound wave just being recreated and pumped through your speakers. So it's going to sound better. It's going to sound warmer. It's going to sound more realistic.
Absolutely.
Especially if what you're listening to was recorded on analog, which we actually did on our second album. We recorded the whole thing analog.
And, of course, if you're a pop station and you want to be better than the other pop station on analog, you just speed it up a little bit more, and it sounds even fresher, right?
Well, they do that a lot in the mastering. Even the Beatles did that. They would. It's called back then it was called vari-speeding. They would have on tape the mastered song, and then George Martin would say, you know what, it needs a little more oomph to it, and
right.
Make the tape go a little bit more quickly, and then you have a more vari-speeded song.
Yeah, so when you're listening to a competitor station and to the other station, boy, that music sounds better on that station than that station. Right. What's going on with that?
Well, then you can get into this. We're really geeking.
Yeah, we are geeking, aren't we?
But we can go into the whole loudness wars.
Yeah.
Which famously Metallica, Death Magnetic, that the album.
Yep.
Where back in the analog days, when you were listening to vinyl, there was loud parts of the song, and there was more quieter parts of the song, and then everyone was like, I want people to just listen to the song on the radio. I want them to hear them in their earbuds. So we just cranked the whole thing up as loud as it possibly goes, and that's called compression.
Yep.
Compression makes the loud part of the songs a little quieter and the quiet part of the songs a lot louder. So now you have something that's just blasting through your iPhone earbuds, but it grabs your attention when you hear it on the radio.
That it does. That it does, John. And I tell you, we're talking to John Cusimano of the Cringe, and I want to ask you this question, because obviously I think you and I are kind of the same generation in that radio. I guess does it mean to you now compared to what it was before? And I guess what do you think the state of radio is right now?
I really don't know. I listen. I do listen to Sirius because I'm a huge Howard Stern fan.
Okay, yeah.
And I like that Sirius has 200 stations. Terrestrial radio, I grew up listening to PLJ and WNEW and Scott Muni, and
yep.
that was, and that, you remember the What was it?
King Flower Hour? Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, they had an interview. It was like a 2-hour-long interview, and I used to record these things on cassette tape.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you had.
Yep.
They had this interview with U2.
Yep.
It was just amazing, and there's something to be said for gathering around a radio or a TV, for that matter, and something that just happens and then it goes away. But God, life has changed so much. You can get whatever music you want, whenever and wherever you want it. So, quite frankly, it's tough in the terrestrial radio business. But that being said, there's something about the community of it. You're in Little Falls, Minnesota.
Right.
So you can connect with your community in a way that someone in New York City in a studio can't. And there's information that you need to give to them, and there's events going on, and so I think that's really important. I think local news, local radio, this is really important, and needs to keep existing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that, John. And, of course, GC is the head pin leader of the Cringe. And let's get back to your music a little bit. Your latest song, at least that we're spinning on our airwaves, I Can't Take It.
And thank you for that.
What's that, the head pin or whatever?
I said thank you for spinning it. I Can't Take It No More.
Oh, yeah, I Can't Take It No More, currently spinning here on the airwaves, and it actually has done pretty well on the Foundations chart, which the secondary Foundations chart, which I know that I also report to. And how do you feel it's being received out there, I guess, across America, and for that matter, across the world?
Good, I think. Yeah, people seem to like it. We have a video out. We did, like everyone does this these days, we first did a lyric video, which is basically the video that you release when you haven't done the actual video yet. And then, and then we did an actual video, and that's out there now too. And we seem to be getting a lot of hits on YouTube and online, and a lot of spins on Spotify and these sorts of places. So, and when we play it live, the crowd seem to dig it. It's a rock song. It's just a good old-fashioned rock song.
It is, absolutely. And you mentioned you're playing it live and stuff. How about touring and stuff? Are you looking at doing some of that again here?
Oh yeah, we're working on a bunch of stuff this summer with our friends in Tesla, who we love,
yep,
and some other bands, and we will be in a town near you momentarily. Hang in there.
I know.
We'll be there.
I always love that behind-the-scenes stuff. Trust me, I deal with a lot of that behind-the-scenes stuff. You can't tell yet what's happening, but it's going to happen soon, right, John?
Exactly.
Hey, if people want more information about the Cringe and that, how can they do so and get that information, John?
You can go to thecringe.com. You can go to, the Cringe. We're on all social media, and or you can just come over to my house. My address is... No, just kidding. I'm not going to give you my address.
Well, it was busy there for a while. You had some sirens going, but then again, I was like, oh, yeah, you probably got the windows open. You're in downtown New York City. It's all good, right?
Look, I don't even have the windows open. We live in New York City. It's loud. That's just, Little Falls, maybe not so loud. Manhattan, loud as heck.
Yeah.
Here, I'll open a window right now. You'll hear...
Oh, yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah, I do hear that.
At like 5 billion people walking on the street, and a subway going by, and there's a movie theater and a bookstore, and there used to be a diner there. I think they closed.
But you said you do have a place upstate, so you can get the simple life up there, is what you're telling me, John.
Upstate is as quiet as it gets. We live on... We're fortunate enough to live on... We live in the town that Rachael grew up in the Adirondacks in... upstate New York. We live on 199 acres, and the only noise you hear is like turkeys, like gobbling in the background. That's about it. And wild turkeys and deer. It's very quiet.
So, are you a sports fanatic at all, or not?
I am a big time Yankee fan.
Okay.
And a big time New York Jets fan, which is an odd combination. Usually,
it is.
Yeah, usually it's the Giants and the Yankees and the Jets and the Mets, but I'm one of those weirdos that likes the Jets and the Yankees, and it's because of my cousin. I blame my cousin Rich for me having to be a long-suffering Jets fan, because when I was around 12 and he was around 11, and we were, good buddies growing up. His name was Richard Todd.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, and Richard Todd was the quarterback at the time.
Yep.
So, of course, we became Jets fans, and they haven't won since.
Richard Todd, Wesley Walker, who else was?
Yeah.
Who's the running back at that time? That wasn't Johnny Hector. Who was it?
Oh, my God.
I know. I'm throwing it off now. Of course, you got the sack exchange and Mark Gastineau and Joe.
The 80s were exciting until they went, 10-0 and never won another game again.
It is funny to say, John, that actually I had a pennant of the New York Jets as a kid in my room.
Are you a Jets fan?
I was back in the day. I don't know why. I still haven't figured that out, but I was.
The new uniform. What do we think of the new uniforms? I'm not sure. I'm not sold totally on these new uniforms.
I've only seen it one time, so I didn't get a good look like you probably saw them many times, because I'm probably show them on TV or in the paper and all that in New York, so I guess I can't really comment on that, so I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Well,
This interview was going great until you said you were a Yankees fan. Now everybody probably turned off the radio because they're like, oh, great, the Yankees!
I'm from New York. What do you want from my life?
I hear you. Hey, let's get back to music, and we're going to play your latest song, I Can't Take It No More, and we'll hopefully see you up here maybe sometime in the near future. That'd be great.
When and if we do, you'll be the first person I call, and I appreciate you playing my music.
Absolutely. John, thanks so much. Best of luck to you. Continued success, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, my man.
Once again, that is the lead singer of The Cringe, John Cusimano.
Nice.
That's
Keep
right.
rocking.
Latest song is called I Can't Take It No More. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.